Hello everyone, Counterspell Hater here, back with another EDH guide. Well, not an EDH guide, I actually meant to say 100 sub special, my bad. So, I finally got an idea for my 100 sub special. Thank you to the last troll, shout out to them for the idea, the comment. So today I'll be going over my all-time favorite commander and then my favorite cards from each card type in Magic the Gathering. So that includes creatures, artifacts, enchantments, instants, sorceries, and planeswalkers, of course. Oh, and I almost forgot lands. Before I get into this video, of course, hopefully you guys can see this. Please use my link in the description to donate to ALSF to fight against childhood cancer, one cup at a time. More than $100. You make a donation, you make a difference. Before we get into this, please leave a like on this video and share it with other people along with other videos found on my channel. Share those too and leave a like on them, why don't you? And also, while you're here, you may as well subscribe and hit the notification bell. That way you can't miss another one of my videos. Excuse me. Hit me up in the comment section with questions, concerns, journal thoughts, criticisms, EDH requests. I'll get to your request in chronological order. So get to the comment section if you want to be first. Excuse me. And you can also give me ideas in the comments. All that jazz. That said, let's get into this 100 sub special. Thank you to all 108 of you who are currently subscribed. And thank you guys for the support from here and going forward, of course. So, my all-time favorite commander, to be honest, has been Bladewing the Risen. This commanders, I've had this for like the better of my 5 years that I've been playing Magic, since like the very beginning, for the most part. It's an uncommon, of course, so that made it easy for me to achieve, to get this. And I've made many modifications to the deck, and this is the current version of the deck. Built with the cards I have at home, and all of them are legal. I didn't have to make any cuts, so this is perfectly commander legal if you're playing in store. So you can play this at home or just anywhere, really. So, Bladewing the Risen, 7 mana for a legendary zombie dragon, 4/4 flying. When Bladewing the Risen enters the battlefield, you may return target dragon permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then for a black and red, you can give all dragon creatures +1/+1 until end of turn. That may not sound much, but when you're playing dragons, when you combine the ability to buff like that with speed and the speed and power of dragons, and you throw in a little reanimation like this here, things can get out of hand quick. Like, I've swung for 36 in the air with only 3 creatures in this deck out of just nowhere. This is kind of an ambush deck. If you do not watch out, you can get overwhelmed by this. So what do we want? We want dragons in our graveyard. So, kind of for an example, we have Sarkhan, the Dragon Speaker. His ultimate, -6, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your draw step, draw 2 additional cards. At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand. So that's going to fill up our graveyard and help us draw some cards. And for all the cards we don't want or we want in our graveyard, we discard them at our end step. You also don't have to worry about cleanup, so because you just discard your entire hand. So that gives you kind of an idea. So now we're just gonna run through it. So we have Acid Spear Dragon, Arkham Hillkite, Elena, Kessig Trapper, Avaricious Dragon, Barrier of Bones, Basalt Ravager, Boltwing Marauder. Burning Rune Demon, Bushmeat Poacher, Deathbringer Regent, Dragon Mage, Dragon Lord Servant, Dreamshaper Shaman, Flame Blast Dragon, Gadrak the Crown Scourge, Horde Smelter Dragon, Jaxus the Troublemaker, Casket the Flesh Sculptor, Kiki-Jiki Mirrorbreaker, Killmouth Dragon, Caligan the Storm's Fury, Lathliss Dragon Queen, Malfagor, Mana Charge Dragon, Mindless Automaton, Mindwrack Harpy, Morgan of Grim Betrayal, Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion, Obsessive Astronomer, Pilgrim's Eye, Rorik's Bladewing, Ryusei the Falling Star, Scourge of Neltorth, Shockmaw Dragon, Skargan Hellkite, Skittering Surveyor, Skyship Stalker, Slumbering Dragon, Spawn of Thraxus, Stormbreath Dragon, Thunderbreak Regent, Two-Headed Dragon, Viscera Seer, Zombie Ogre, Vanquisher's Banner, Traveler's Amulet, Raider's Carve, Nevinaral's Disc, Herald's Horn, Expedition Map, Dragon's Claw, Armillary Sphere, Spit Flame, Price of Fame, Open the Omen Pass, Eat to Extinction, Dark Bargain, Severed Strands, Seize the Spoils, Pact of the Serpent, Necrotic Hex, Ironcrag Feet, Haunting Voyage, Crippling Fear, Bitter Revelation, Burning Anger, Form of the Dragon, Sneak Attack, Cabal Stronghold, Path of Ancestry, and 14 Mountains and 14 Swamps. There are your tokens. So all turns 1 to 6, I'd say, are going to be preparation for turn 7 and going forward, because that's when you're able to play Bladewing, of course. On curve, we have a 95.12% chance of playing Barrier of Bones, Slumbering Dragon, Viscera Seer, Expedition Map, and or Traveler's Amulet. The average mana value of the main board is 3.07. With lands and without them, it's 4.41. The deck's total mana value is 304. There's mana production statistics. Average number of opening lands of lands in opening hand. Excuse me, got that mixed around. 2.12. And just to compare, this deck, $950. Now, mind you, there's some foils in here, but still. And then this one, $2,126.78. Not really to criticize these decks, but just for comparison's sake. One more, $1,925.87. They may have a lot of power, but this is only $119.20. And like I said, 3 creatures for 36 in the air. You may not need to spend that much to get all that much power. Like the $2,000 or so someone else spent. Not saying it's bad, but like also maybe not using foils. Although blinging out the deck kind of looks good. But that's kind of just to show you that you don't need to empty your pockets in order to have a lot of power in your commander deck. This thing is capable of messing up your opponent's life total out of just nowhere if they aren't careful. Like, if they do not watch out, you'll come turn 7, you'll play Bladewing, and then you'll get maybe something like Rorik's Bladewing, something like that. Caligan the Stormshear will buff up everyone. And the thing with this deck is we kind of have, like, all the dragons I have in here have some kind of utility. So Essence Spear buffs everyone up. Alcom Hellkite uses our lands against our opponents in the form of damage. We've got Form of the Dragon, We're a dragon deck. This goes perfectly with us because creatures without flying can't attack us. And at the beginning of your upkeep, Form of the Dragon deals 5 damage to target creature or player. So, in addition to the damage you're dealing in the air, you've also got Form of the Dragon hitting people for 5 at the beginning of your upkeep, or killing off creatures, quite possibly. And we've also got things like Spit Flame, which is removal in this deck that is going to come back to your hand a lot. Because we're playing dragons. Mourjin of Grim Betrayal, reanimation, so is Haunting Voyage. Can be foretold, so you don't have to worry about Thoughtseize. Well, Thoughtseize is turn 1 or so. But still. Everything in here is kind of a punishment for our opponents. Thunderbreak Regent. Our opponents want to interact with our creatures? Fine, but it's gonna cost them 3 life. Our opponent loves to draw cards? Too bad. Stormbreath Dragon, we make it monstrous, could potentially kill them. Not to mention Flying Haste, protection from white, and 4/4 that when monstrous becomes a 7/7. Flying Hasty dragons are already hard enough to block as it is, but protection from white? Sure, that's only 1 color, but a mono white deck isn't gonna be happy. So, and then we've got like Gadrak or Cabal Stronghold to help us ramp. Sneak Attack to just straight up get things out there for a singular red mana. And then if it's a dragon, well, we're obviously going to sneak it out with Sneak Attack, because then it's going to go into our graveyard for Bladewing to reanimate later on turn 7 or so. So all sorts of forms of utility. Necrotic Hex, get rid of a lot of creatures across the board, not only on ours, but our opponents. So get rid of something annoying, quite possibly, or put a decently sized dent in their board state, or just hit them where it hurts because of them having to sacrifice 6 creatures. In the meantime, we're getting 6 2/2s, of course tapped, but we're also getting 6 creature cards into our graveyard that could all be dragons. So this deck has a lot of utility, and if your opponents aren't careful, like I've said, and I'll say it again, they could die out of nowhere due to Bladewing the Risen's Anthem effect. Not only that, we also have Lathliss, the Dragon Queen. Lathliss Dragon Queen, if I can find it. Which also has a way to buff up our dragons, but Bladewing also buffs up their toughness, so there's a less of a risk of your creatures getting blocked and them dying because they were blocked, because they didn't have enough toughness. So, still. But now to go over like my favorite cards and stuff. Creature, I'd have to say Yarok. Not my favorite, like my all-time favorite commander, but pretty close to it. Just because, like, with Yarok, there's so many things you can do, especially when you get into, like, the Risen Reef stuff. That goes pretty crazy pretty fast. You can just throw a whole bunch of ETB effects into the deck, like, carelessly, although have, like, some common sense, of course. But, like, in Commander, if you get an engine going with Yarok, it gets pretty crazy pretty fast. Artifact, I'd have to say Aegisor's Gateway, not only because it's in my Yarok deck to gain me life and give me a bunch of mana to do a lot of stuff in one turn, but because it's just good in any sort of deck, especially Commander when you're starting with 40 life. And it gains you 5 life and immediately untaps when it transforms, and can draw you cards that you may need, and you can exile cards that you don't need. So that's nice. And with things like Eternal Scourge or Squee, Goblin Nabob, I think it is, or like creatures that can be cast from exile, you don't really lose your cards at all. Although Squee can't be played in Yarok, but you know what I mean. Oh, enchantment. First thing that came to mind was Grave Betrayal, just because of how ludicrously powerful it can be. I mean, sure, the creature you may get may hurt you or may not go according or may not be like a part of your plan. But like, if someone board wipes and there aren't any like token players out there, sure there may be some tokens, but like everyone except for you is going to be in trouble at that moment if you have Grave Betrayal and you're able to untap with all the creatures you just got. Not to mention they're now black zombies with plus and plus of counters on them. Just to rub salt in the wound. And you can take away important game pieces with Grave Betrayal. So for instant, I'd have to go with Synthetic Destiny. There's so much potential. Like giving blue the ability to swap out like small tiny creatures for like big engines like a Blightsteel Colossus, or maybe you're playing Radvar? I don't know which one it was. Or like a blue-white tokens deck. Like there was a game where I used Synthetic Destiny and I got out all the creature cards in my deck. Literally every last one. Sorcery-wise, I'd have to say Genesis Ultimatum. I've used it so many times in my red, green, blue decks. Like Elemental Madness, you already know. Genesis Ultimatum, that goes extremely just bonkers. Like Genesis Ultimatum, if you need a bit of gas, it'll give it to you. Because you don't lose any of the cards. If they aren't put into your hand, if they aren't put onto the battlefield, they're put into your hand. Which means Genesis Ultimatum can get yet another Genesis Ultimatum. Or a few more. It can really just propel you very far into the game. Or even farther into what you already are. Or just close out the game entirely. Now, for Planeswalker, any of the Ajani's. I can't he was the first one that came to mind. Honestly, I can't really think of a more splashy Planeswalker, especially his ultimates. Like, there's an Ajani I think it's Ajani Mentor of Heroes. His ultimate literally gives you 100 life. I don't think I need to explain much else. Like, it's really hard to choose between the Ajani's because they are just all so brutal when they ultimate. Not to mention the things they do in between. And with the addition of Ikamoon Gauntlet coming soon, and you know how Planeswalker Super Friend decks are gonna go. Ajani's only just gonna become even more brutal than he already was. Proliferate, combined with any Ajani Planeswalker, honestly, in my opinion, you're gonna get, if you're on the receiving end of the blow, it's gonna come quick. Now, land, I didn't think of because I forgot about the card type entirely. So, if I'd have to pick a land, oh god, it's pretty. Okay, so I'd have to say like Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, just because in like monocolored decks or decks that don't play many colors, like 2 colors, it can be very good, especially in copy decks when you're copying creatures and along with their mana costs, which will increase your devotion by a lot. Like Nykthos Shrine to Nyx would work very, very well with Essex Fractal Bloom because that is a deck that instead of creating normal tokens, You instead create tokens that are copies of a creature you choose whenever you create tokens for the first time in your turn. Hold on a minute. Where was I? Oh yeah. Although Isolated Watchtower doesn't really come close to the amount of power Nixos Shrine to Nyx has, but I will say it is nice to be able to scry, and also it helps like colors. It helps decks that just don't have ramp. Like if you're not playing green, I would highly recommend Isolated Watchtower, so you can play more cards instead of less lands and having to divide like into 50. I don't do that in real life, but like as you've seen in my videos, most of my decks have been 50-50. 50 non-land, 50 lands. Now, there are some other powerful lands, but like the first one that came to my mind just now was like Nixos Shrine to Nyx. Because like, when someone says think of a powerful land, like that's one of the first, that would probably be like one of the first ones that come to mind. Or like any of the hideaway lands that aren't blue or black. I mean, the blue and black hideaway lands, I mean, don't get me wrong, they can be good in some cases, but the black hideaway land, that would only go in Hellbent decks, and those are decks that don't want cards in your hand. And then the blue hideaway land, it wants you to be in a self-mill deck and to have 20 cards in your library. That's cutting it a bit too close. I would have gone with like, oh, have X amount of cards in your graveyard, and then you can cast the exile card. But the other hideaway lands, however, you've seen me sport in my EDH decks that are red, green, or white, have red, green, or white in them. So Windbrisk Heights goes well with token decks, or like decks that want to attack a lot. Spinerock Knoll wants you dealing damage. That's what red wants to do. Green, Mosswort Bridge, you can play the exile card only if your creatures have a total power of 10 or greater. And in green, that's not much of a struggle. And when you combine those colors, so you're playing a red, green, white deck, that's easily right there. That's 3 free casts that could be like 9 mana value, or like 9 CMC, or like 10 CMC, or like a Blightsteel Colossus followed up by an Apex Devastator, which is a really good card, by the way. But there's those lands. But honestly, to put it at first, I'd have to go with Nixos Shrine to Nyx, because it was the first land that came to mind when I'm thinking about favorite lands. Like I said, can't really think of a more splashy, more powerful card than that. Being able to add an amount of mana equal to your devotion to a color, which is pretty cool. Now, I will say the Zendikar modal double-faced lands, the Mythic Cycle, the Shockland, they're Shocklands, except they make you pay 3 life. Now, in 7 decks that can be good, but like, I'd expect more from a mythic rare land, of course. But enough of that. I think I've gone over everything that was at the request of the commenter that gave me the idea for my 100 sub special. Thank you to the last troll, of course. Shout out to them. Shout out and thank you to you guys for 100 subs, and also 108 actually. Thank you to all who are subscribed. Use my link in the description to donate to ALSF, or Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation for Childhood Cancer, to fight against childhood cancer one cup at a time. More than $100, you make a donation, you make a difference. With that also said, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, that way you can't miss another one of my videos. Why not? You're already here. Ugh, can't speak. Hit me up in the comment section with EDH requests, which I will get to in chronological order. So give the comment section if you want to be first featured in an episode. You can also hit me up in the comment section with questions, concerns, general thoughts, criticisms, all that jazz, ideas, etc. Leave a like and share this video along with other videos found on my channel with other people. With that said, thank you guys for 100 subs. And going forward, thank you to all of you for your support, all of you who are watching, and especially to those who are subscribed. Thank you. Shout out to the last troll for the idea. Keep giving me ideas like this. Let me know how this recording turned out, guys. Since this is the first time I'm recording a video with OBS Studio. With that said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.